Welcome everyone to today's meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. First of all, some housekeeping. If the fire alarm is activated, please take the stairs down to the reception area and out of the building to the green in Hawley Square, which is the assembly point. Please do not use the lifts. Officers will assist you and advise when it is deemed safe to return to the council offices. I would advise that if filming takes place, anyone in attendance in the public area may have their image captured. Does anyone intend to film the meeting? No. Restriction on the use of mobile phones. Would everyone present please ensure that their mobile phones are turned to silent and that they are not used to make or receive phone calls while the meeting is in progress. Apologies for our absence. Alison, have we any apologies at all? No. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, members? No. So we move to item 3, application for a new premises licence at the Stone Bay Kiosk Broadstairs. I call upon Mr Katengi, the Council's senior litigation lawyer, to explain to the parties the procedure that we will be taking during the hearing.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I would like to confirm that the decision of this board are made in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003 and based on the information presented in this agenda, together with any verbal submissions made today. Decisions of the board are not politically based. This board must act impartially and offer a fair and unbiased hearing of today's application. This subcommittee will give fair consideration to everything it hears and reads today. We are here to consider an application for a new premises at the Stone Bay Kiosk Broadstairs in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003. We will hear the parties in the following order: the licensing officer to present the report, the applicant, questions for the licensing officer, members of the licensing board, questions for the licensing officer, the applicant to address the committee, the licensing questions for the applicant or the representatives, members of the committee, questions for the applicant. Once all of the relevant representations have been made, with the exception of the board members and the Democratic Services Officer and the legal officer, you will be asked to leave the chamber so that the licensing board can deliberate and come to a decision on your application. This should take around 30 minutes, after which you will be invited back into the chamber for the announcement of the decision. Thank you.
Would the technical support team manager please present the report?
Afternoon, everyone. We received an application for a new premises licence at the Stone Bay Kiosk in Broadstairs. That's attached to the agenda along with the plan. The applicant has to advertise on their premises and in a local paper, and this was done. And we received a number of representations, which was 20, and again, they are attached to the report. The representations were sent to the applicant, and he asked us to send an email to all the people who put in the representations explaining what he was actually applying for. So we sent that, and we had, after that, a number of the representations they basically all said they still wanted to be considered. So they're all attached. We've received no representations from the police, environmental health, a licensing officer or the fire service. The police agreed some conditions with the applicant, and those are also attached at Annex 5. So over to you to listen to the applicant and the... One other thing, since I wrote this report, the Estates Department confirmed with me that they've issued a licence to the applicant to be able to have tables and chairs on the prom and on part of the beach. So that's all been agreed with the Estates Department.
Okay, members, do you have any questions for Alison?
When I was looking through the objections, there was a common theme about previous issues with noise. Can you tell me how many complaints that you've received and what action was taken?
I've just checked that with the team downstairs, and we haven't received any noise complaints.
Okay, any other questions for Technical Support Manager? Okay, thank you. Okay, now I'll turn to Mr. Montilla and the applicant. Would you please present the application?
Mr. Dillon was going to attend with me today, but can't for health reasons, so I've come on my own, so I'll give it a good shot. So we've applied for a drinks application licence for down at Stone Bay, and would you like me to tell you the reasons why? Is that what we should do now? Yeah. So we've sort of created a family hub for the beach, which has lots of sort of fitness and well-being, and all the ethos is to try and keep it for the community. There's over 300 beach huts down on Stone Bay, and last year was our first year. We held a residents meeting with local residents and the beach hut owners to introduce ourselves and to say that this is us, this is our, our number, and we're looking to bring a bit of vibrancy to Stone Bay, and appreciate that it's been a small kiosk for many years. And so we're looking to apply for a drinks licence, which would not be the core part of our business, but would accompany the sort of food and the ambience of the area that we'll be looking to provide. And given that all of the other bays have drinks licences, we'd just be following on suit from the other bays. But we're not looking to create a sort of bar or a club environment in any way, shape or form. It'd be one beer, one rosé, wine, so very limited offering. That's it.
Members, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, the beach is well known, I mean, like most of our beaches in Thanet, as being popular with families. How would you cope with the situation where you had a table, people sat down having lunch, had a couple of beers, and they get a little bit louder, as tends to happen after a few drinks, and that there's profanities or some sort of language that might not be appropriate in public? How would you or your team be coping with that, and what measures are in place to do so? Thanks.
Well, we would obviously have staff training, so we'd teach our staff how to look out for people that are intoxicated, or if people have walked along from another bay, they may have been drinking on other bays and they come along to ours, so we'd certainly look out for that. We would police our local area. We wouldn't be using any glass at all, or there'd be no glass at all given out. It would all be plastic. And we would be very vigilant to what people are ordering, and given that the beer that we'd have would just be a session beer, we wouldn't be looking to put any sort of strong lagers on. So that would be how we would, and obviously with CCTV on as well, we would be we'd have everything monitored. Thank you.
Can I ask, is the CCTV up and running?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
So we will be putting CCTV in subject to an application today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, have you had any representations from neighbours about noise to date, and if so, how have you dealt with them?
Not as such. We had last season, we was playing some music from the hut. Wasn't loud music or amplified music in any way, and someone did mention that the music was slightly more than background music, and we turned it down on that occasion. And we've always said to anybody there that the door's always open, come and see us, and we're here to offer a service for everyone on the beach. But nothing, no sort of formal complaints were made to us in writing, or we didn't feel we had any problems last season. Thank you.
Yeah, can I ask, with regard to the music, is the music sort of more sort of background music? Yeah. It's not actually music for the whole beach to hear? No,
that's right. No, there's nobody. There's nobody there that's going to be benefiting from halfway down the beach getting loud music played. And we've got beach huts right next door to us, so we're obviously very cautious of the surrounding area. Who's next door, etc. So no, it's background music.
Okay, does the technical support team manager have any questions for the applicant?
Not so much a question, but obviously one of your conditions you've agreed with the police is for CCTV, isn't it? So that is a condition of the licence, that will need to be there. They will get pulled up if that, you know, it is a proper condition of the licence, so that will be there.
Yeah.
So could we make sure that's in place if,
Sure.
if the licence is...
We actually had some antisocial behaviour down there last night, which a lot of the beach hut owners and local residents would know, living there, that in the summer months you get a lot of kids down on the beach, having fires, taking crates down, etc. So unfortunately the beach huts next to us got broken into, so did the area behind us where they threw our chairs around, etc. So I think CCTV would be a good thing anyway, and we believe that by us being down there and being sensible adults, that that may deter groups of children and kids and teenagers from going down and using that area as a redundant part of the beach, which it currently is, you know, if we was never open. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the, I mean, you've alluded to that there with the antisocial behaviour on the beach and kids going down, having fires and things, which start usually quite good-natured, but they can deteriorate. And very often in the morning you're going to find broken glass and other problems down there. Have you participated in or been involved in any of the beach cleaning activities down there as a local business and stakeholder there?
So yes, we have. Last year we had 2 beach cleans, plus we actually kept the main stairway clean and swept all the excess sand off and stuff. Our staff currently check the local area, so every morning that they open, they check the area to make sure, for example, there's no old crates that have been burnt and carried, nails, etc. And so yeah, we keep our area clean and tidy. Our promenade is swept every morning, and we maintain the area and make it as safe as we can.
I'd like to ask, would you both like to introduce yourself before we ask him some...
Well, yeah. You don't speak.
Mrs. Moulton.
Mr. and Mrs.
John
Moulton.
Moulton. Christine Moulton.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Moulton, is it Mrs. Moulton that's going to introduce the...
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to state your case of objection?
Yeah. Can I just say, we've both lived along the Esplanade for 32 years. During that time, I was actually a head teacher of 2 of the local schools. My husband ran the unit for very disturbed youngsters. We believe that we know quite a lot about difficult youngsters. Now, having lived there for over 30 years, I have to say the way the arrangement works at the moment is really good, except for times when exams finish. And that's when you do get the noise and the disturbance just described. We haven't complained about that because we work with young people. I was head of 3 secondary schools, 1 in Tower Hamlets, 1 in Thanet, 1 in Deal. So we're very familiar with the way youngsters behave and how to control that behaviour. We are very disturbed. We've done a risk assessment on the 6 to 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock slot in particular. Because you see, at 6, most of the families that presently use that beach and use it in a very positive way go. How do I know that? Because I sit upstairs in my house and look out over the sea. I can see Stone Bay, the steps going down to it. I see it in the morning as the dog walkers arrive. I see it at 6-ish when basically a lot of the people do leave to feed their children, as indeed they should. If you leave that facility open, I in particular am very concerned about the risk to anybody working there, because you know as well as I do, you provide the licences, that lots of pubs in Broadstairs, and there are actually 150 different outlets for food and for drinks in Broadstairs. I checked it only this morning. You know that there are many bouncers now in Broadstairs because people with a drink problem actually become a major nuisance. I think what this 6 to 9 o'clock or 6 to 10 o'clock provision is going to do is encourage people that have been barred from the pubs and the clubs locally in Broadstairs to come to our end of the beach. Why? Because it's so very secluded. And that's okay in the day when you've got lots of families there, but at night it's not okay. And what we're doing is putting your staff at risk, including yourself, I'm assuming, but also putting young people at risk. Because if they know there's provision there, a bit of music, some drinks and so on, they're going to be more attracted to that area than they are now and for a longer period of time. And that worries me very much, because if they get into trouble, they've got 50 steps they've got to mount to get out of trouble, or they've got almost a 3/4 mile walk to get out of trouble. And that just wouldn't happen. People are going to get attacked. And I think you need to listen to the fact that between 6 and 10, your staff are at tremendous risk, because how are they going to get the police there? How are they going to get an ambulance there if it's needed? Because right now, the toilets close at 6, as you very well know. So there are no such facilities. There's almost no way you can get hold of the police and the ambulance. I know friends have talked about it and I've discovered it. And you are putting so many young people at risk. You know, children, I mean, I've been teaching secondary school kids for 40 years, 20 of those as a head teacher. And unfortunately, youth is youth. If there's a chance of getting hold of drugs, for instance, in a fairly secluded area of Stone Bay, that's what they're going to do. And there are lots of places to hide. And frankly, any staff that you have and yourself should not approach people who are selling drugs, taking drugs, and basically have had too much to drink. I'm absolutely certain of this. I've been there for 32 years. I have never complained about any noise. We both understand young people very well indeed. I used to run discos, but I always had help. I used to get parents who were policemen, who were prison officers, to come and patrol with me. We searched bags, we searched individuals before they came into the disco. Why? Because if we didn't, we would have ended up with a drugs problem and a drink problem. And that's what you have to do. And at the age of 14, we even stopped doing discos for them because of the issues involved. In London, I used, by the way, to have my judo team come and manage the school with me. You cannot allow young people access to a place where they could be sold drugs, sold alcohol, bring their own alcohol, where there's a bit of light, there's a bit of noise. Between 6 and 10 is what I'm particularly concerned about, as indeed are all the residents. I'm chair of the neighbourhood association, and we've all objected pretty much. It's not just the Stone Bay chalets. And there has been vandalism. There'll be a lot more. You've just described it, and thanks for being honest about that. But if you attract young people to that area, you are creating a major social issue that does not exist at the present point in time. And I'm just going to concentrate on that. And the issue about the toilets is just so important to so many of those Stone Bay hut holders, because where are kids going to go to toilet? Where are adults going to go to toilet? We know that. They already do it sometimes, you know, at those times I've described already. But that's a short period of time. And I don't see there's a need for this facility, because people who live locally leave around 6. So what on earth are you thinking of for putting your staff at risk between 6 and 10 o'clock at night? You would. There'd be no doubt about that. And I'd be the first not just to say, I told you so. I'll be on the phone to you. And not only that, I shall be very happy to support any member of staff who sues you for putting them at risk, which they would be at risk. There is no doubt whatsoever in my mind about that.
members have any questions for... Yeah, do members have any questions for Mr. and Mrs. Moulton?
Hi, good afternoon. Do you think that the problem with the antisocial behaviour on the beach is with people bringing their own alcohol? I'm not sure what prices the beach kiosk will be charging, but I imagine that supermarket alcohol is going to be the preferred choice, and that's what generally we see on Thanet beaches at the moment. So from that point of view, how could you explain why you think that the availability of alcohol at the beach kiosk would exacerbate that problem? I heard obviously separate to the point on perceived risk to staff, but in terms of the antisocial behaviour and the open air consumption of alcohol and behaviour that results, why the beach kiosk would be adding to that, given I suspect quite a substantial pricing difference?
That's an interesting question. Basically, there are some youngsters who do drink on the beach. You know that, I know that. They are basically not a big problem because of the issue of the stairs up to Eastern Esplanade, the fact they've got to come enormous distances. Most of them, most of the year, are simply not there. There simply is not a problem. There are problems further along because if you look at some of the brightly lit places, you know, kids tend to aim for those. So you're looking at Viking Bay and so on. And I know there is disorder there, but you've got ready access to the police, to ambulances. It's a much better lit place. If anybody has problems with people on the beach doing that, they at least have got nearby residents and nearby shops and bars and so on where they can go for help. Your staff are going to be at such risk. I would not dare do what you're suggesting because, one, I don't think you're going to make much money because I think you're right, the kids are going to bring their own drinks. But two, I can't see who's going to sit down there because I love that Stone Bay area. I've got a house there. I've lived there for 30 years. Love it. But it's very windy, it's very cold, it's very isolated, and the older we get, it's harder and harder to go down those stairs, never mind about come up them again. And if there are no toilets, why would you go down there when you've got these other 149 outlets where you are near toilets, where you do have good lighting, where you're not going to be at such risk? I just don't see that you'll get the custom. I'm trying to help you with your business. What I am worried about is that it will attract drug dealers and it will attract people that we don't want at, you know, the bottom of Stone Bay doing the things I readily expect they will. They did in Tower Hamlets, they did when I was in Deal. I mean, you know, these issues are not new. For 40 years now, they've been the same. You've got to manage young people very carefully, and you've got to protect them, and you've got to protect people who are working in the interests of the general public. So I've got no problem at all with what you do now. I applaud it. I think it's a great family area. We trotted along there on Sunday. We managed the steps this time, and the steps are very difficult. But the area was well organised, the toilets were nice, we popped in, we had a look at them, very clean. We love what Thanet Council are doing now to introduce licensing hours till 10 at night. You're asking for a major change down there, and it's not a good one, and it's putting a lot of people at risk. And that's why I so strongly oppose this and why I've turned up today to say that to you. If you had as much experience of young people as we have between us, including ball stools and so on, you'd know why we're so worried about young people. Given half a chance, they don't behave quite as well as we'd all hope. So.
Does the technical support team manager have any questions for Mrs. Moulton? No, thank you. Mrs. Moulton, do you have any questions for the support team manager?
I don't honestly understand why the police haven't objected to this. They have put conditions there. But the problem is, in 30 odd years, have never seen a police car anywhere near the bottom of Eastern Esplanade. They don't come that way. And I just wonder, personally, being very cynical, whether or not they want the kids that are taking drugs and drinking to move to somewhere quieter, less accessible to them. Now, I'm sure you can't answer that, but nevertheless, it did occur to me that that might be the reason they're not objecting to this.
So obviously I appreciate you've been there for 32 years and understand the area better than anybody. We're also local, been there for not that many but 5 years, so we live just behind you. And we're on the beach every morning with the dogs, and we're down there with the kids in the evening, so we know after 5 years the sort of pattern of what goes on down there. So it's not there isn't a general problem on the beach as such. There isn't a stream of kids going down there and vandalising. And I think for us, for me being an experienced licence holder, I would see that what we're going to be offering is more of a sort of a destination venue, not looking to draw people, say, from the Tartar Frigate after they've had a few drinks and walk a mile down to us. I don't think that would be, and you are right, that would never happen, and I think we'd be commercially making the wrong decision. But what we are looking to do is become a sort of a food-led place, like you may get in Cornwall, where it's a bit of healthy food or some a nicely cooked burger, and then we would see to attract maybe small groups of as a function, so maybe a small celebration where we could do a very intimate gathering, 20, 30 people, and I don't think that we would ever see us competing with the other venues in Broadstairs, because I think they've already got all that going on. So I think for us it's important to price it right, so that the clientele, we are only focusing on the clientele that we currently have. And when the people do leave the beach at 6, because you're right, the sun comes over and it does go into shade, we would only be looking for these hours during the summer period. So come the winter, we probably wouldn't be open anyway. So we're looking to make the most of the summer and become quite a renowned spot for people to be, for people of Thanet to be proud of anyway, and hopefully get known across the sort of local areas, being a place to come with the kids, relax, and then if you want to have your celebration there, we can do that with food, and we will always be a sort of food-led operation as opposed to being a sort of a party place, and to keep the kids at bay. I think they are nice kids down there. I've got to say, maybe if that was back in London, there'd be a lot more vandalism. They do go down for a good time, and they are aware of adults being around, and when we are there, we notice they don't come down that end. They disperse and maybe go where they can be policed. But if they're not being policed because they're in a hideout area like Stone Bay, then there definitely is the chance of drugs and whatever else going on, because there are all those nooks and crannies, which then the following morning you've got children around to maybe stumble across whatever. So we wouldn't be open all week anyway. It'd be weekends, and we're hoping that by us being, if we are open a bit longer, can deter people from hiding around the areas of the local area. So yeah, thank you, and thanks for your points.
Thank you very much. With the exception of the subcommittee members, the Democratic Services Officer and the Senior Litigation Lawyer, please can I ask those present to leave the chamber so that the subcommittee can come to a decision. You will be invited back to the decision when announced.
Sorry, can I just clarify one point? Sorry, just one point. your application is from Monday to Saturday. You just mentioned you wouldn't be open during the week and just the weekend. Just to clarify, is that the case, or?
So we're currently weather permitting, so if we've got the 4 weeks option, we can then trade as we see we need to, but we're not going to be putting staff down there 7 days a week because it is a destination venue. So it's more the flexibility that we would be looking for. Thank you.
Okay, Joseph, just to confirm the application hours, I thought it was it Monday to Sunday, 6 till 10?
From what I can see, 8 till 10, Monday to Sunday.
8 till 10?
Yes.
Sorry, is that 8 o'clock in the morning?
8 till 10, yeah.
Till 10 a.m. I think, do you have a copy of the...
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can verify that on page 17. Page 17, it says 8 till 10 on the Monday, and all the way to Sunday, 8 till 10.
Right. Okay, and that is just they can sell alcohol all through that time. Yeah. Okay, well, Embers, what do you think?
Well, do you mind if I start?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Basically, I've been a licensee.
Sorry, just to
Yeah,
clarify, they are suggesting 10 till 10 to sell alcohol.
Oh,
10
10.
till 10.
10 till 10,
It's been
yeah.
an early start, 8 o'clock, isn't it?
Yeah, I was
Even,
thinking
even in
that.
Broadstairs.
Yeah. Even actually me, I wouldn't start at 8, I think.
They could at least wait till 11, couldn't they?
Exactly. But I've run nightclubs, I've run pubs and bars and things in the past, and he has said exactly all the things that you would want to hear from somebody who's doing it. Plus he's talking about only doing a certain amount of stuff. It's not like talking about 13 types of beer and 22 types of this. It's clearly going to be like bottle of beer.
Food-led
Yes,
destination.
exactly.
Yeah,
And that's what it's been saying, isn't it? And I think to suggest that people are going to come down and take drugs or things is just crazy, personally.
Yeah.
I think that's all a red herring. I think they're just worried about the... I mean, it's not about that application that they're worried about,
I think,
is it?
yeah.
They're worried about the whole vibe of the...
I,
Yeah.
I
area.
understand their fears,
Yeah.
but that's what they are, their fears. What if this can
Yeah.
happen? What about that? It's what could happen.
Plus-
It's not what has
That's
happened.
right. Plus, as well, if, as he says, if they're down there with their staff,
I would like to now invite Mr. Katengi, the senior litigation lawyer, to read a summary of the subcommittee's determination.
Thank you. Upon considering whether to grant or to refuse the license for the Stone Bay Kiosk Broadstairs, and having considered the documentation and representations made by the licensing officer, the applicant, verbal submissions made by Mr. and Mrs. Moulton, and written submissions, it is the decision of the licensing board to grant a new license at the Stone Bay Kiosk Broadstairs on the basis that the conditions imposed in Agenda Annex 5 be complied with, and on the condition that the kiosk is open from 10 till 10 on the months of May, June, July, August, and on the other months up to 6 p.m. The board recommends that the applicant should consider installing a portable toilet in the proximity of the premises. This decision has been made in line with the Thanet District Council's licensing policy and objectives within the Licensing Act 2003. The applicant may appeal this decision that the committee has made to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days. Thank you.